Welcome to the first ever episode of the NewTake Media podcast. In these podcasts, we will be interviewing various creators. We'll talk about their creative processes, and we'll also be asking them about their secrets to success. So stay tuned. We got a lot of good shit for you today.
My name is JP. I started Eudaimonia Comics a couple years ago. It's a name that kind of gets people off on the wrong foot because they don't know what the heck it is. They never heard the word before, but basically Eudaimonia, for those that don't know, is it's from Greek philosophy, and it basically means like the good life, like the life that's the things in life that make your life worth living. So I just started making comics on my own. I wanted to tell the stories I want to tell and do them the way I want, them to be done. I started this kind of weird little historical World War I project called Eudaimonia. It's a two-part story about World War I and characters kind of like, pulling meaning out of the madness of the war. My newest series is called How to Die, which, I figured, go the other direction, like get a title that like really grabs people's attention. And it's like a kind of Lovecraftian horror, super powered horror book in which you can basically stave off death if you know how to die.
Yeah, man. You sent me them, and I'll tell you, they're pretty awesome. They're very novelistic, I noticed. Like, your writing style, it's a lot of like narration and stuff like that compared to other comics, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I got back into comics in college. You know what I mean? Like I went back to, and I'm studying all this classic literature, and then I started taking some books on, like going back through a lot of the classic comic books, and I was like, man, this is like peanut butter and jelly. Like if we can put these things together, we got something.
Yeah, man, definitely. What got you into comics in the first place? Like, when was the first time you were like, wow, these are cool?
I think to me, like I think a lot of the comics I read as a kid, I didn't put a lot of thought into. But then when I started reading like classic literature and really getting into critique and examining them, it kind of got me into looking at those older stories, in that kind of similar vein. So like it caused me to never be able to see Spider-Man the same way again. Like once I looked into like what was going on at the time and what a lot of the themes of the era were, and about how like if you kind of boil down like Spider-Man, it's essentially a series that's about the transition from youth into adulthood. And it was written at a time where, the term teenager wasn't really used all that much. We didn't really think about what a teenager is in that transition period between youth and adulthood, because we're kind of emerging historically out of a time where kids were, doing labor. So you basically had to jump immediately from being a child into being an adult. And so once you have this period where the identity of the teenager emerges, that's really where Spider-Man comes out of, is allowing children to go through a process of learning responsibility. But as far as like the single comic that would kind of grab me in that way, the Max, one of my favorite, Sam Keyes, one of my favorite like books I ever.
Oh yeah.
Because the Max is I like those stories that are about, superheroes and costumes and all of the things that go along with it. But like the book isn't really about that. It's about all of these things that are so relatable and human. And I think that's what kind of drew me to comics, is that it's not for what's fantastical and, crazy, but the things that I can relate to. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I feel like a lot of comics have meaning within their heroes and with their various characters, and a lot of people, like you said, relate to those characters, and that's what makes them so popular now.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Because superheroes are booming like crazy in the movie industry and everything. I feel like it's because kids and adults relate to these characters. So
yeah, it's not about a fantasy of wanting to be them. It's more about the themes and how you can kind of incorporate them into the life that you lead.
Exactly. See, I feel like a lot of people who, aren't into heroes or aren't into comic books don't get that really. You know what I mean? From an outside perspective, they kind of view it like you said, where they're like, what, you want to be a dude with superpowers? Like what?
No, I want to be a responsible human being.
Exactly. See, someone gets it. So what was your first body of work? Like the first thing you ever wrote or created?
I've been publishing things like just kind of wherever anybody will publish it, like short stories and prose and poetry for a couple of years now. It not that long. Like I just graduated college a couple of years ago. I actually went back to school to become a math teacher, and I had to take, one of those required courses, and it was just like an English class, and there was this old woman that just like got me really excited about like the idea of like storytelling and literature and looking at stories, and she like encouraged me and believed in me, and I was like, this is really what I want to do. I just want to tell stories. Or like I guess if I had to go back further, my dad was like a salesman, and so I learned a lot just through like osmosis about like what it means to tell a good story and how to kind of arrange things in that way. So like classically trained, definitely not. More of like just something I picked up along the way.
I feel you on that. I've pretty much trained myself the whole time with all the things that I'm writing. I'm mostly just self-taught, so
yeah.
I feel you. So where are your goals as a writer and creator? Like where's your ideal spot that you want to be at?
Honestly, I'd be perfectly happy just kind of doing things my own way, and whatever my audience organically grows to be, I'm perfectly fine with. I've kind of seen enough from the standard publishing industry that it doesn't seem like a very fun place to be right now.
Yeah.
So, I'm perfectly happy just kind of having my audience. The flip side of that is that I'm not all that good at marketing myself. So it's been a slow climb to like kind of get readers under the umbrella. But yeah, I'd be perfectly fine with that. If I can tell, my stories the way I want to tell them, that's perfectly all right with me.
Yeah, for marketing, that's definitely a challenging part, I feel like, for a lot of creative people, because in some ways it like counteracts the creative aspects of yourself, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like it's also necessary if you want to actually, do this.
Yeah, like I've been told that like you have to have like a YouTube channel and all that. And I have a YouTube channel, but I basically just do whatever the hell I want. So I started making like creative nonfiction YouTube videos, just telling stories, and yeah, we'll see. I got to do things my own way.
Yeah, man. I mean, my YouTube channel, it has a lot of subscribers, but a lot of them are not there for that. Like I kind of did what you did. I just made random videos, of everything anything I wanted to, essentially. And then eventually I started covering Spawn videos and stuff like that. So it kind of got like comic readers more interested in it, but I have to like beat in their heads that like I'm releasing a comic book essentially like every video, and then here and there it'll gain like 2 people. It's a slow grind, but Yeah.
So far my most popular YouTube video is about when I played professional poker for a couple of years. That got a good amount of attention.
Oh yeah, I bet, dude. I bet. How did that go? Tell me about that.
Basically so it's like gambling isn't really what a lot of people think it is. Or sorry, poker isn't really what a lot of people think it is. It's more like day trading than it is gambling, where you're basically, making those kind of micro gains over a long period of time. And that over that period of time, skill will win out over luck. And so it's literally just like sitting on this was back when like poker on the internet was like not illegal. And I basically just grinded for like years, and I got my bankroll up to like, I think I was close to like 40K.
Yeah.
And then I woke up one morning and the Department of Justice shut down online poker, and I was like, all right, I'll go find a job.
Is that when you figured out you wanted to be a math teacher?
I mean, it did eventually lead. Yeah, that basically on the timeline, I was like, all right, I guess I'll go back to school after this for a while.
What inspired you to be a math teacher? Were you just like good at math, so you're like, yep, this is it?
I just decided I had to go back to school, and that was the only subject that I remember being good at when I went to high school. So that was the route I went.
Right. What would you say is the most difficult part about writing any story?
I would say it's definitely the part where you let other people read it and they tell you what to change, because it's like, at least the way I write things, it's like a giant pie. It's like a Jenga. You know what I mean? It's like if I pull out this one thing, the whole thing's going to fall apart. And like learning to like restructure things is really, really hard because everything feels so attached when you write it and you have it done. And then when somebody tells you something, they're like, no, it's like pulling on a single thread and then the whole sweater comes undone.
Oh man, I feel you on that. Yeah, every time I have someone look at my stories or I'm rewriting my stories and I figure out, I'm like, oh man, this thing shouldn't be here. But if I remove it, oh man, everything else I'm gonna have to change up and it's gonna change the whole flow. Now I gotta like restart essentially.
Yeah, I would say the biggest lesson I took from that is if you get a bunch of feedback, it's okay to disregard some things. Like I had the book I'm currently writing, I actually got some eyes on it, and this guy gave me this like laundry list of things that he gave me, and a couple things were really helpful. Because the story takes place in the 1920s, and he's like, well, this gun wouldn't be all that popular back then. You should change it to this gun. And I was like, oh, that's actually really helpful. Then he's like, this part doesn't make sense. And I was like, no, you're wrong. I set this scene up like 6 different ways the scene before. Like,
Yeah. I mean, that's just like opinions are opinions, man. I mean, you have to go with your gut and what you think is right, because in the end, you're the creator. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the other thing, and this is like a good piece of advice for any writer who's working with an artist, is it's taken some time to learn that like the more detail you give in your description to an artist, the closer it's going to be to how you imagined it. It's never going to be exactly what you thought it would be. So try to include as much detail as you can. More detail is better than not enough, because you don't want to have an artist looking at your descriptions and just be like, okay, I guess I can figure this out. Like, don't make them figure it out. Try to make it a collaborative process.
Yeah, definitely, man. For my writing, I essentially have a sheet, like a whole document that goes into every single character detail, because it's like a massive world, right? So I have all these different characters. One, it helps me keep track of the characters. It helps me keep them consistent and all of that. But it also has like inspirations and the idea, like it has a very in-depth description of what that character looks like. And same things like when I'm talking about the environments and all of that. I try to put as much detail as possible because, yeah, like you said, if you just leave it up to their imagination, they can't read minds. So it's obviously not going to be the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The hardest thing is perspectives and angles. Like if I get some art back and I'm like, I kind of had in mind that this person would be standing over this person's shoulder, kind of entering the frame, and now everything is kind of off kilter a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad whenever I do that because I know the feeling, because I do modding, right? I essentially do level design, right? So I'll make a level and they'll look at it and then they'll criticize and they'll be like, sometimes they'll be like, oh, you have to change this entire thing. You know what I mean?
What games?
Fallout 4, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, we're essentially creating Fallout 2 within Fallout 4. So the entire game in like a 3D world space. So it's pretty cool.
Okay.
It's called Project Arroyo. Quick plug in case anyone wants to check it out.
Nice.
But yeah, so like whenever someone comes to me and they're like, all right, you pretty much have to like rotate this entire level around. I'm like, oh, it's restarting time. So I always feel kind of bad, but I'm like, oh, it's got to be done to make it, quality.
Yep.
It's just how it is. And what do you think the purpose of a story is in the end?
I'm of the mind that I don't like to really spell out a lot in endings. I prefer that like whatever people get from it, they get from it. So as an example, in the Eudaimonia books, there's a character in the book that is never named and is never mentioned, but is just there at a bunch of pivotal moments and really drives a lot of the story. He's never referred to, he's never named. And I kind of like that. I kind of like that there being this character that, like, my readers see that and be like, who is, like, but he almost has kind of a supernatural element to him. So he's like a blank slate that anybody who reads it could interpret it a completely different way. Like, is this person the devil? Is it God? Is it, the judge from Cormac McCarthy books? Is it the narrator? Is it me? You can have like a lot of different interpretations. And I kind of prefer things that way.
Yeah, I love the different interpretations aspects of like anything, whether it's film, comics, books, because it makes it almost rewatchable or replayable. So you can always come back to it and dissect it and interpret it a different way.
Yeah, I would describe my writing as a series of things that happen, and whatever meaning you can extract from that, that's what it is.
For both books, how did you come up with each idea?
Eudaimonia came from my wife and I got married, and we drove from one end of the United States to the other.
Oh, wow.
And so it was just a lot of time in the car, just kind of watching the scenery go by. And we were driving through all these small towns. We both came from like kind of larger cities on the East Coast. So like just seeing all of this open area in the middle of the country was just like kind of a shock, like a culture shock.
Oh, I
And I don't
bet.
know, I just kind of developed the idea of like, hey, I wonder how gossips and secrets transmit from person to person out here. Because like you live in a small community, you live in a big city. Everybody's talking about something. Like what out here where there's all this open area. And that just, I don't know how that was just kind of the starting point for Eudaimonia, is the idea of like there being a secret in a really small town and how it would eventually kind of drive people mad. And in the end, the secret is just an old man playing a cello in a cellar.
That was cool. I really like that, actually. For some reason, I thought when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be like a horror movie, essentially. I thought the dude was like cutting his guts open or something. I was like, whoa. And then then it was revealed that it was just a dude, playing a cello. I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, that was really cool.
And then I think How to Die emerged slowly from Doctor Who episode. I don't remember which one. I just remember I was watching a lot of Doctor Who, and I just got this idea of like, what if people kind of grew superpowers out of the worst parts of themselves rather than it being like the very pinnacle of society kind of ascending to something higher, if it was just like the lowest dregs of society kind of evolving these powers.
Okay, so you have the idea for these comics, right? What's the creative process that you go through in terms of writing them and actually developing the stories and stuff like that?
It is usually a pot of coffee on a Sunday morning. Just thinking about like just pivotal events and then really kind of stitching them together with hopefully good dialogue and conflict. I know that, what was it? There's this movie called In the House of Sand and Fog, and it was like an Academy Award nominated Best Picture thing. And the writer came to talk to us when I was in college. And the first thing he said to us is, when you're writing, never have the ending in mind when you start writing. And my first thought was, that's stupid. And I could never, ever do that. Like, that's just dumb. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know he's, a very impressive writer or whatever, but no, that doesn't work for me. I need to know where we're starting and where we're going, and we'll fill in the rest on the way there. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't.
Yeah, no, I agree, to be honest. I feel like a lot of writers have their own flow. I mean, I feel like with a mystery that could be good because you don't even know. Like, for example, like you don't even know who it is. So it comes as even like a surprise to you. But when it comes to anything else, really, I'd prefer to at least know the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
And then fill it in from there.
Yeah, if what he was describing is the correct way of writing, then I'm an incorrect writer.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
Also, the guy was a complete a-hole.
I mean, a lot of people have ego, unfortunately, in the creative industry, I noticed. Like,
he was telling us this story about how he would go to bars in Boston and wait until he saw a guy who was mistreating his girlfriend and then beat them up. And I was like,
oh yeah,
man, that totally happened. Yeah, you're Batman. Yeah.
yeah. He's like, no, this is real. I swear to God, I did it.
Yeah, never got my nose broken once.
Just that good.
And it's also like, oh, what do you do again? You're a storyteller? Yeah, you're lying.
Yeah, no, honestly, I mean, these people, dude, they always come up with the most crazy things to boost themselves up. It's insane. Oh, jeez. One time I had a guy, right? So when I was trying to get my comic book made, I don't know if you've checked it out at all yet. It's I don't even think I sent you the link, but it's called Grandpa, right?
Okay.
And
I will. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. It's all right. I was trying to find like a cover artist, right? The most simple thing. I was like, all right, I need a cover artist. So I'm like looking for a bunch of freelancers and stuff like that. And then I come across this one guy and I'm like, all right, this guy should be good. Let's check him out. And I'm talking to him and he hasn't even made that like any bodies of work really. Like his portfolio isn't even that large, but I liked his art enough to the point where I was like, all right, this is good. You know, I'm down with this. So I asked him, I was like, would you be willing to make some cover art for me and all that? And then he was like, yeah, sure. And then I showed him the art of my book with my artist. And dude, he just got so egotistical. He's like, you know what? Actually, you should have me draw the entire book instead. I mean, I understand he was trying to sell himself, but he was just like trying to shit on my artist so bad. And then he's like, actually, I'm too good for this. And I was like, okay, man, whatever.
I think as a whole, I'm shooting less than 50% with hiring an artist and having that artist actually do the work. You know what I mean? Like I've had as many times where I had to basically like be like, hey man, can I get my deposit back? You're clearly not doing this.
Yeah. It's tough, man, because a lot of people I feel like aren't actually dedicated to the product even when they say they are. You know? Like they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm down. And then they're not doing it.
Yeah.
Luckily my artist seems pretty dedicated, so hopefully he stays and keeps doing what he's doing.
If not, you could just change the art style mid-book.
Yeah, I guess.
Then write it in. Have your characters say in the book, like, wow, the world looks completely different right now.
The funny thing is I could actually do that in like the second issue because he does break the fourth wall a little, so it kind of works out. But so
oh my gosh, we're manga now.
So obviously you've seen a lot of movies and read a lot of books and stuff like that, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, fairly.
So what would you say your favorite movie is?
Oh man, I don't think I even have one. I could throw like a couple. Like
try to choose one from like each genre.
The Dark Knight.
Yep. I feel like that's an easy choice for everyone.
No Country for Old Men.
Ooh, okay.
Blazing Saddles.
Classic.
With Clue being like close behind it for comedy.
Yeah.
And for nostalgia, Over the Top.
I've never seen Over the Top. What's that about?
Over the Top is the story of Sylvester Stallone is a truck driving father, and he has to win back the love of his son in an arm wrestling competition.
That does sound fun. That does sound fun. Is that just a movie like you just enjoy just purely out of nostalgia?
It was like my parents were kind of like their divorce was like a car crash in slow motion. So for like over the course of years, my dad would just keep showing us Over the Top because it was about like a father and son rekindling their relationship.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the propaganda ended up sinking in, and I unironically like that movie.
Makes sense. I mean, I feel you. I mean, my whole life, I pretty much watched like slasher movies, right? So even the bad Friday the 13th movies, like Jason X and stuff, I still enjoy just out of nostalgia. Like I can watch it at any time. I'm like, this is just fun.
What's your favorite Friday the 13th movie?
Oh, I would definitely say either part 6 or part 2. It's one of those. Okay. Depends how I'm feeling. Yeah. What about you?
My parents wouldn't let me see that at all, but my wife is basically a film academic of slasher movies.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I think her favorite's 2.
Yeah, 2's really good. I mean, 2 actually has a scary element to it, whereas most of the other ones don't really take themselves too seriously.
I don't know. I mean, can you explain to me why the gym teacher, why the kid runs into his gym teacher in a gay leather bar and his teacher is able to make him go back to school in the middle of the night and run laps? Like, and that was reality. That wasn't like some dream. That was.
Yep.
What?
I don't know. You know what? Don't question it. Just enjoy it. I mean, no, I get you though. They're pretty crazy at times. They're pretty crazy, but I feel like they're always a fun time.
If I had to choose a scary movie, it would definitely be The Ring, because it was like I'm kind of immune to scary movies, but The Ring like seriously messed me up. Like I remember after I saw The Ring, I was walking to work the next day, and there's a pharmacy next door, and there was a ladder leaning against a building, and I was like, oh, it's real. And then I remember, a couple days later on the way home, I stopped at Walmart, and it was like after work, and it was like kind of late, and I was walking through the TV section, just getting like a TV dinner or something, and one of the televisions static came on, and I came about as close to like crapping my pants in a Walmart as I ever have. It's like,
no, The Ring's a spooky movie, man. I'm the same way. I've seen so many horror movies to the point where I just don't get scared by them. I just get like entertained. Like I love horror. I love the art of horror because there is an element to it in the art of scaring people, but it's just a lot of them don't scare me because I'm so desensitized to it. I feel like.
But really, The Ring was like the first one to kind of bring over that Japanese aesthetic that then got used like to death.
Yeah. Then like a million other things came out. They're like, all right, now this is going to be every movie. You ready?
And then there was The Ring versus The Grudge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, what would you say your favorite comic book is now that we're onto that?
Definitely the Max.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I know we talked about this earlier. You said you're a fan of video games, right?
Yeah.
Of course. What's your favorite video game?
I kind of look at that question as two different ways. There's like your favorite video game that you had an experience with, and then there's like, what if you're on a deserted island, what video game are you going to take that you can just play endlessly forever?
That's true.
So for me, I'm going to cheat. My video game that I have on a deserted island is going to be the GameCube Mega Man collection because it has Mega Man 1 through 6, I think, in it.
Yeah.
But as far as like, man, I know it's like recency bias, but I'm going to go with Hollow Knight. As far as like the single experience, barely beating out Castlevania. I think it's Dawn of Sorrow. Like those Castlevania Game Boy Advance games, I think are just amazing. I know that like everybody craps on them because they're in the Metroidvania genre, and then when the game kind of went away from its roots. But like I love those games. Like you can just explore those for hours.
Right, and you like a lot of like 2D side scroller types of games, like Mega Man, essentially.
I kind of like a little bit of everything. Like I'll find a genre and I'll try and explore it, and I'll just find like, no, it was just that game I liked. So like I'm not even that big into horror games, but like Resident Evil 4, one of my all-time favorites. And then I played 5 and I was like, that's getting kind of dumb.
Oh yeah. You know, it's funny. I replayed that recently, and that is one of the worst games and one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my life. I was just
But I still played the crap out of it just because I wanted to get back Resident Evil 4. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you can only play through it once.
Yeah, it's RE5's. Well, I feel like I've played through Resident Evil 4 a lot of times. So
yeah,
it's very replayable actually, because there's constantly like upgrades you can get, and there's constantly new things and outfits and all that, and new weapons.
But
and
like,
stuff.
There's only one time that you can have that first experience where you hear the chainsaw in the village. Or the first time you encounter a regenerator.
Ooh.
Like that only happens once.
Man. Yeah, it's funny because, I was 4 years old at the time. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's the
second
first time
you're like,
it.
oh, I can just blow this guy away.
Yeah, pretty much. Get the thermal scope, you're good.
Yeah, or just Chicago typewriter. Chicago typewriter for about 5 seconds and you're good.
Yeah, pretty much.
Did you ever play, what is it? Metro 2033?
I did, I think. Yeah, I think I did. It was a while ago, but yeah, I think I did play that.
It's such an underrated game. Like, I know the sequels were trash, but like that first one, man, was so good.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I played that a while ago, but yeah, I definitely agree. And if I was on an island, obviously, I'd choose Fallout 4 because I can turn Fallout 4 into whatever I want. So it's great, man. Like, modding is incredible because, for example, someone made a Silent Hill mod and it literally turns the game into like a complete horror game. So there's so many mods that overhaul the game and change it into complete like something completely different. So it's always like a new experience. There's always new weapons and armor. Actually, I'm having a guy create an armor set that's in my comic book. Nice. in the game, so we can release it and advertise the comic through there, and you're gonna actually be able to read like the first 4 pages of the comic in the game, so that should be pretty cool.
So we were talking about Resident Evil 4 and How to Die, the Black Ice, that character is kind of a mishmash of the Regenerators from Resident Evil 4, and then the character Glacius from the Killer Instinct fighting game series. I don't know if you ever played that or not.
I've never played that, no. So
yeah, Killer Instinct was this is back when like Mortal Kombat 3 was at its peak, and Killer Instinct was just this fighting game that Rare made that was just like, you go into the arcade and it's so much, they designed it to be louder than any other game. So you would go to I would go to the arcade to play Mortal Kombat 3, and I would just hear this really loud fighting game over my shoulder. And yeah, that was Killer Instinct.
With that, who would you say your favorite character is in all of fiction, not counting your own characters?
Probably all of fiction.
Yeah.
I'd say probably the judge, like I talked about earlier, the judge from Cormac McCarthy's An Evening Redness in the West. It's one of those blank slate characters that as a reader, you're just putting something, whatever you imagine them to be, onto them. Either that or Beowulf. I always like Beowulf.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Those are 2 good choices. Obviously, I would say mine. One of them is probably Spawn. That probably is. I think he's cool. I also really like Batman. I would say is a close second place for me because I feel like he's a pretty complex character in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of obviously there's a lot of depth to him psychologically and emotionally, and he's like a super badass character, obviously. And then third place is probably Rick Grimes in the Walking Dead TV series. I like how he is in that. So yeah.
What do you think of the Spawn movie?
Oh, the old one?
Yeah.
Oh, I really don't like it. But
I saw it in the theater the day it came out.
Oh man, how'd you feel?
I was a kid. I had no idea what was going on.
Okay, then I guess it was probably pretty cool.
Yeah, no, all I remember is John Leguizamo creeping me out.
Yeah, that movie is nothing like the comic books, and the sad part is a lot of the only thing that a lot of people have seen is that movie, surprisingly. Yeah. So they're like, this is Spawn, right? I'm like, no, it is not. And they keep going by the movies. Like in my comment sections, like people like to get into debates on who Spawn could be, like, oh, could Spawn be like Superman or whatever? And then they're like, well, you see in the movie, I'm like, the movie is not the comic.
I always thought it'd be cool to write a book about a world where every character played by an actor and gets materialized in the world, and it's kind of like Jet Li, the One, where they have to fight it out to find the true version of that actor. And I always thought Michael Jai White would be a good one for that, because you could have Spawn versus Black Dynamite versus the gangster that he played in The Dark Knight.
Dude, with the Joker, I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Michael Jai White was actually, I would say he's a good Spawn, though, because that dude's huge, first of all.
He's such an underrated actor, though. Like,
he is.
It's really crazy that those are the only 3 movies I can think of that he's been in.
I know, exactly. And for the remake, if that ever comes out, for the new Spawn movie that's coming out, he keeps saying it's coming out. He said that in like 2014, so we'll see about that. But he was going with Jamie Foxx instead, which Jamie Foxx is a good actor, so I don't have anything against it. But I would prefer Michael Jai White, to be honest, because I feel like he fits Spawn a lot more.
Yeah. I think he was easily the best part of that movie.
Definitely.
Like even what's his name? Martin Sheen. Even Martin Sheen was terrible in that movie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess direction and writing has a lot to do with it. You know,
Yeah.
if even if you have like, I mean, good actors can help a lot, obviously, but if you don't have the right direction and the right writing, it's gonna be tough for them to act it out.
Well, hey, Michael Jai White made it work.
Exactly. Do you have a favorite animated series at all?
Oh man, that's a Pandora's box.
Open it.
Definitely the Venture Brothers.
Oh, all right.
Which I just heard they're getting a movie. It was canceled, but like, I'm a big proponent of the idea that like TV shows almost never end well. Like no matter how good of a show it is, it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
I'm no, but I mean, almost any show, Seinfeld, Sopranos, like they never end well. Less is actually better.
Yes.
So the Venture Brothers has been on air for going on 20 years now, and they've only had, I think, 7 seasons because so much work goes into making that show, and there's almost no bad episodes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, most shows, you're right, they do end pretty poorly. And it's amazing how much an ending can affect people. Like, I feel like your ending first of all, I feel like endings are like one of the hardest parts to do of a story for me personally. And second of all, I feel like it's one of the most important parts because everyone's going to remember it for the ending. So they're going to be like, all right.
Yeah, like how many TV shows can you even name that were both great and people think had a great ending?
Not many. The only just like Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, yeah.
That's it. Like Breaking Bad's the first one that pops in my head. The show's amazing. So before we head out, I wanted to ask you, since you've had 4 successful campaigns, am I correct?
No, okay, so I'll tell the story really quick. So basically, okay. I think the first How to Die campaign, there was something too spicy on it for Indiegogo. And so they basically ghosted it so nobody could find it on the page. So I basically had to do a relaunch campaign. So that's why each campaign kind of looks like a failure, but you have to kind of put them together to equal a real campaign. But yeah, it's basically one book that I had to do 2 separate campaigns for.
Yeah. So what was it exactly? Was it like nudity or gore, or what did they take it down for in case anyone else wants?
I don't know. They would never tell me. My only guess is that I think it's because I'm an idiot and I used copywritten music in the trailer.
That'll probably do it. No, that was most likely it. I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them, it looks like you made a little over your goal. So it looks like you got them done. So what is your quote unquote secret sauce to getting those done and actually getting funding and trying to find people for your product?
I would say always over deliver if possible. Being on time is being late. Try and have everything prepared so people aren't left wondering and waiting. And I would say valuing your customer is 80% of customer service. So even if they only kind of like your book, if they love the way they're treated as a customer, they'll come back.
Right. I definitely agree with that. That's a huge thing that a lot of places I feel like don't utilize as their customers, which you should, but I feel like a lot of them don't. Like if you ask your people what they want, they'll tell you what they want, and then just give them what they want.
If you treat everybody like they're in the lobby of your Chick-fil-A, even though your chicken is overrated, they'll line up for it.
You're right. I love that.
Hot take, Chick-fil-A is overrated. Chick-fil-A is overrated.
There you go. Chick-fil-A is going to come after me now. They're going to be like, oh yeah, we're overrated? Okay.
They just built one here, like the first one here, and there's lines going all the way out to the highway every day, and it's like...
It's insane.
There's a Popeyes like half hour from here.
I've never seen, like, it's always the Chick-fil-A's. Anywhere I go with the Chick-fil-A, the line is insane. It's always like packed to the gills. So it must be doing something right, I guess. All right. So any last things you want to plug in before we head off, or?
Well, just that. Thanks so much. Thanks again for having me on. And How to Die is currently in demand. We got plenty of books to sell. It's going to be a wild journey. Keep an eye out for Eudaimonia Comics. We're going to be up and coming. We prioritize stories over promises, and I want to put a good book that's worth remembering into everybody's hands.
Awesome, man. I am going to put all of your social media links, and I'll put the link to How to Die. I'll put the link to everything below. So make sure you guys check that out. The link to my comic will also be below. And if you click that.
Yeah, get that too.
yeah, that would be nice, guys. I'd appreciate it. But if you click that, you'll get the first 4 pages for free. So make sure you check out all of these things, man. Thank you so much, man, for joining. This means a lot. I hope we could probably do this again. That'd be nice.
Yeah, no doubt. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.